Hey guys, I'm in Seattle, but it doesn't feel like it. Look at this Coleman Park. People are having fun, jumping off the diving boards, swimming. We've got Bellevue in the background over there. It's just a beautiful day for a ride, and you know, we're checking out a pretty awesome bike. I'm actually here with Alex from Evelo.
Hey guys.
Could have been helping me out, filling me in on some of this. So, you know, this is the high step. This is the Galaxy TT, and I guess that stands for top tube?
Yep, correct.
Okay, so by comparison, we have the ST, and this is the step-through design. Gonna be a little bit easier to approach. I reviewed this separately. Really, the bikes they're very similar. The big difference seemed to be maybe a pound of weight, a little bit heavier because it has that top tube, and a little bit larger. That's like 19 versus 18.5. I've got the specs back at the website. You know, I measured standover height and reach and all those other things, but they're very similar bikes. And to me, the idea is you get something that's efficient with that mid-drive motor, quiet, smooth, clean because it has a belt drive, it has continuously variable transmission. That's the new Vinci N380, so it has 380 degrees of like shifting, and you can shift that at standstill. I mean, it's really cool. It's set up with disc brakes, 180 millimeters front and rear, and this one, it's the more base model package, okay? Which means mechanical disc brakes. They don't have adjustable reach levers, so you know, that's what you get. You have to reach a little bit further. They do have motor inhibitors, which is nice because this bike has throttle as well as an advanced pedal assist system. It's not quite as advanced as like Bosch. You know, their system measures cadence and wheel speed and torque 1,000 times per second, but I'm very impressed with this. You know, this is a little bit more value, really high torque, up to 80 Newton meters of torque, and I think it's rated between 350 watts nominal up to 750 watts peak. So I want to say it's very capable. There are a couple times on the hills around here. I mean, you can imagine, we're going to do this a little bit later, going up into these beautiful hills. There are times where, depending on the gear you're in, you know, and you kind of have to take maybe a quarter pedal stroke and that's when it catches on, but it's still very good. So I just wanted to kind of explain what we're working with here and then give you some close-ups on this mechanical disc brakes down here. Okay, so 180 millimeter rotors, that's very large. That's like mountain bike size, and I haven't had a problem stopping this thing going down hills. At 58.5 pounds roughly, I mean, it's a bit heavier, and part of that's because you got the fenders, you got the rack, you've got some larger, you know, handlebars, a little bit more swept back, even the grips and the saddle, that all starts to add weight. And then the new Vinci continuously variable transmission, there's like oil in there and these orbs and kind of a pivot system. It weighs a lot more than a traditional derailleur with sprockets that hangs down. That's going to be lighter, of course, but shifting gears and stuff can kind of grind a little bit easier, especially with a mid-drive. You've got all that force. Remember, 80 Newton meters of torque at peak. You know, that's dealing some damage to your system over time unless you shift just perfectly. And at the same time, if the bike ever tips over, it can get bent, or maybe you go close to a curb. So this system eliminates a lot of that, but it does add some expense. And a lot of this is name brand. So Gates Carbon Drive, the new Vinci N380. I mean, that's like 800 plus of you know, parts and stuff right there. So the bike is priced at $34.99 in this configuration, and it uses the mechanical new Vinci. So you see how there's this little hill right here? You can twist this shifter and it flattens out. So that's going to be like, oh, I'm going to go a little bit faster. It's flat, it's easy. And then, oh, I'm climbing a hill, and it shifts down, so it helps you climb. You're going to go a little bit slower, but it's going to empower you and the motor, and that makes it very efficient. So mid-drive systems are great because they bring weight low, center, they create efficiency because you shift. And this one, it just requires a little bit more hand strength to turn. If you want to, you can upgrade to the hydraulic disc brakes, and we see that over here on the ST. They have that adjustable reach, just a little bit easier, more fluid, powerful feeling, and the harmony system. So this one's electronic, and you get two choices. You can either tell it how fast you want to pedal, and it just maintains that speed, that cadence, and automatically adjusts. So if you're climbing, it sort of shifts down, but your cadence stays the same. Or you can tell it, oh, I want to spin faster or spin slower by pressing that button. I love that they have that option. $400 more to get the hydraulic disc brakes and the new Vinci Harmony, and this is what it looks like from the side. So those are your big options. They also sell a ton of accessories, and we'll get back to that in a second. I just want to like hit some of the other specs on this. I mean, this is a very purpose-built frame. It has to be because the motor's, it's built right into the bottom bracket area there. internally routed cables, relatively clean, but there is some, there's some clutter up here because of those motor inhibitors. They've done a good job wrapping it. They have press fit connector points here. Some of the other bikes I've seen have like threaded, and there's a little washer and stuff, and that adds a little bit to the price. But this is, again, really nicely, cleanly integrated. Only one frame color here. This is like a kind of a space blue. I think it's pretty handsome, and it has a little bit less frame flex than the step through. So what I mean is some of the weight, about 7.4 pounds, is positioned up here in this battery pack, and that's high. It's towards the rear. You want weight low and centered as much as possible. And on this frame, maybe they could have done some sort of battery integrated into the frame or bolted on. But they're kind of sharing parts between the bike, and that makes it a lot more serviceable. And frankly, this battery pack's not bad. You don't have to leave the keys in while you're riding. You can charge it on or off the bike. The charger's only 1.5 pounds, 2 amp charger. That's kind of standard. There are some companies, Bosch being one of them, that have like a 4 amp charger. It's a little bit faster. The battery capacity is 36 volts, 13 amp hours. So it's like 464 watt hours, something like that. It's quite capable. And again, battery sipper if you manage that motor correctly. Integrated fenders here, extra struts so it doesn't rattle quite as much. Connecting point there. Very nice. The plastic tend to be a little louder. When you're riding along, they can kind of rattle like that, but they're going to be a bit more durable than aluminum alloy, which can bend, and then of course steel can rust. Got the mud flaps at the bottom, so let's say that you've got big feet and they're sticking way out. If you hit your feet, or maybe you get close to a curb or something, the rubber is just a little bit more flexible and it's not gonna hang you up the same way. So, nice stuff. The rack, 24 kilogram max weight. You can get a trunk bag, as we see over here. This is a perfect example. So Evelle sells this, I think it's like 69 bucks, and these have the pannier like flaps on the side, so it opens up, and then this is another bag. You can put a bunch of stuff in here. I think that's very cool. Topeak has a bag like this. It's quite a bit more expensive. I'm just gonna leave that down. But yeah, pannier blockers. You can hang some different style bags on this. There's even a bungee cord connection point at the bottom, and it's adjustable. You can see those struts. It's more of like an aftermarket rack. As you ride this more, especially because there's already some battery weight in here, just keep an eye on these bolts. Make sure that they stay solid. That's just coming from me personally. As I was saying before, it's purpose-built frame. Part of that is, in order to work with the belt drive, they have to have a cutaway on the frame, or the dropouts and everything have to be like below that chainstay, which by the way has a slap guard, probably unnecessarily because this belt is super tight. It's not gonna like nick up the slap guard, but I wanted to call that out. It's kind of overkill. Anyway, you can take out this little piece right there on the right seat stay, and that's how the belt gets on there, and then you use this horizontal dropout to tighten it. You probably don't have to do any of this. It's gonna arrive and just be in great shape. And these belt drives, this is like a timing belt in your car. Super durable, super tight. Just, it's gonna last longer than a chain, which is surprising to some people. They're like, really? And it's like, yeah, they're actually very, very capable, but they cost a little bit more. This one's the Carbon Drive CDX EXP, and it has this center track design. So you can see there's a cutout in the middle of the belt. That way it doesn't go side to side as you're riding. Got Welgo pedals, they're okay. It's got the rubber tread with decent traction. Sometimes rubber can be a little bit slippery. These ones work out decently. Sometimes I replace these with like BMX pedals, metal ones, aluminum from Amazon or whatever. They're bigger and there's more tread. But then if you slip off, like if you're pedaling and your foot slips off and you hit your shin, the metal ones cut you up. So this is a good option, just straight out of the bag. Quick release on the front wheel, 9mm skewer, nuts on the back, again, because of all that fancy stuff. So you really want to, one area of this bike that I like is that they have the 27.5 by 2-inch tires, a little bit fatter, gonna improve your comfort. And there is a PSI range here that's, gives you some room to work with, 40 to 65. You don't want to go too low if you're someone who's fairly heavy or you've loaded this up. The max weight for this bike, the rating is, it's like 300 pounds or something. You probably even go a little heavier than that. But if you're running the tires low for comfort and you weigh a lot, then the tire's getting squished and it can kind of like, it can kind of bite into the tire and give you flats that way, pinch it. So just keep that in mind. I'm kind of like rounding this out a little bit because I want to explain just how sturdy it is. You've got these double wall aluminum alloy rims, you've got reinforcement eyelets, adjustable nipples, 13 gauge spokes. A lot of bikes just have 14 or even 15, and that gives you some flex, but they aren't necessarily as sturdy as this. So I feel like the bike is really well built. And then that frame flex thing, you know, if we shake it like this bike feels a lot more rigid. See how it's just tight versus with the step through, you know, if you shake it, the back of the bike like wags a little bit. There's a little bit of a crack the whip. Personally, to be able to approach the bike, especially if you have like a hip problem or something, or you're just not used to swinging your leg over. I mean, imagine this. You think like, oh yeah, I swing my leg over this, no problem. But then there's the rack. I mean, we're talking like pretty high. As soon as you start to add a bag, that's even higher. Like you are not gonna be going like this, right? And so I like the step through, but there's a little bit of frame flex. We've got a swept back, almost like a gull wing style bar, stitched grips, they're padded, they're comfortable. Everything's easy to see and reach. The throttle right there especially, and then these buttons, they're within reach, so you don't have to take your hand off while you're steering. And I did notice that, you know, especially at speed, there can be a little bit of wobble because the bike's heavier and because you have that rear rack. But it's always a trade-off, like utility versus performance. And to me, this is the kind of bike you can just take out on a beautiful day, ride around town, have some fun with it. And I'm really impressed with Evelo because I've seen some of their older products and it was like, the motor system they used was just, it wasn't nearly as advanced as this one. Not only is it powerful, but it's measuring your rear wheel speed. There's a magnet and a sensor over there. It's also measuring torque. So it feels really fluid when it starts to go. It's not like a big surprise. It responds to how hard you're pushing. And you have 5 levels of assist, so you can dial it up or down. Top assisted speed, 20 miles per hour, and then that trigger throttle. And the trigger throttle to me is a mixed bag. I like to have it, because sometimes you just want to take a load off and just like go and, you know, rest your legs. But you have to get up to 6 miles per hour with this bike before it responds. And some of that's a safety feature. I think some of it too, you know, you work with these manufacturers that Bafang is like a big company. They make a ton of these motors and I think they just have a standard and they stick with it. But if you work at Bafang, listen to me, give us what we want. Some of us want to have a throttle on demand like immediately. And I'd love that to be an option in the future. You just have to be really careful because if you are carrying this bike and you bump it, it could take off on you. So there's always these trade-offs, and I think this bike, especially for the type of customer that just wants to have fun, works really well. I'm gonna turn it on, press that M button. I don't know if M stands for mode or motor, I don't know. And then we've got our battery capacity, 5 ticks, 20% increments, that's okay. Someday it'd be nice to have percentage, a little bit more precision. Odometer and trip meter. We press that M button briefly and it switches between the two. So I've ridden 3.2 miles on this today, getting some good experiences with it so far. Speed, miles per hour right now. If you hold the up and M button at the same time, it switches to average speed and max speed. And I'm just gonna take it back to regular speed. Pedal assist, we're in 1 right now, but you can arrow down to 0. Nothing works in 0 mode. The bike's just kind of like bicycle, and then you've got this display. The bike does have lights that it comes with, but this is just basic. This is like a USB independent, you know, basic light. And then there's this rear light, which has AA batteries inside. It's big, it's reflective, it's nice. It's gonna stay out of the way of the bags, panniers and stuff. And I asked Alex about this light, and I was like, you know, it's nice to have integrated lights. We got this huge battery, why is that? And you said,
we weren't really able to source the high quality of light we were looking for, and a lot of the electric bikes you see are really going to have lights for visibility, but not necessarily to see the road. So we do think that you know, by adding on different handlebar lights and some of the accessories we offer, you can actually get a brighter light. It's going to be a little safer for you.
And you also said, this guy, it blinks so many electric bike lights, they're on all the time,
right,
and it's just constant.
Function,
yeah,
right.
This is decent, okay,
right.
and 2 AA is gonna last a long time, LED. Sorry to put you on the spot, buddy. I mean, I think some of those decisions, they get lost in the mix, and a lot of times I'm not meeting with like the knowledgeable reps from the company. We're scrutinizing this bike all day and asking questions and stuff, and you know, you were even telling me that you have these different packages. Can you tell me about the upgrade packages?
Yeah, sure. So we have a comfort package that offers a much larger saddle, has a suspension seat post.
Nice.
And also has a set of ergonomic grips with little bar ends on the side, so you have some different hand positions.
Well, let me stop on that one.
Sure.
Because this is a rigid frame, all aluminum, alloy fork, kind of bladed. It's actually really nice. That creates some stiffness, and it's just, you know, it's going to be lighter, even though this does weigh a bit more because of the fenders and everything. There's no suspension, you've got the bigger tires, and if you upgraded that comfort package, this sprung saddle from Selle Royale, it's nice, and it matches the grips. But when you get a suspension post, I mean, that's really nice. just keep in mind that it's going to add a few inches. So if you're already a little bit struggling to get up high and you want to have that saddle low, just keep that in mind. Sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to explain that.
Yeah, no worries, of course. We also have the safety package, which has a nice mirror, some really super bright USB rechargeable lights,
Nice.
Reflective ankle band, and some other nifty stuff. And then we have a commuter package as well, which includes tools and stuff you'll need, if you ever, on the unfortunate event of a flat tire.
Yeah, that was the other thing. Sometimes you recommend like Slime or whatever. These have the Schrader valves. You could fill them up. It's not a whole lot of fun if you have to change a flat. At least the front has that quick release. But then there's also this issue of security. So if you live in an environment that's like a city and someone's just like, haha, and they just take your seat, and then they run away with it, like that happens depending on where you live. So tell me what you got for that.
So we actually have a security package as well, which includes some locking hardware that secures your front wheel, replaces this with a locking piece of hardware as well.
Yep.
And also some locking nuts for this new Vinci hub. This is a very expensive wheel here, so we do want to make sure that it's on the bike when you get back to ride it.
Yeah, and just a big chain lock and stuff. So it's neat that you guys have these. When you're a big company, you get better deals on stuff, and so you have these packages that offer a lot of value.
Yeah.
Maybe help people think if they haven't thought about this kind of thing before. I think that's really neat. Even the bag, this is reflective. It's got like little reflectors. In some ways, it's like, man, it's just a bag, but it's going to work. That it's going to. So whatever, you get it. You guys get it. I wanted to, give you some feedback about this whole setup. So the display, I like that it angles forward and back a little bit because there was some glare on our way here. You can start to see like, oh gosh, really gets you in the eyes. We talked about pedal assist a moment ago. As I arrow up with that button, we go to Eco, Standard, Power, and Speed. So there are these 5 levels. That limits how much throttle power you get, okay? So in order to get full power on the throttle, you have to go up to level 5. This is another area where I'm like, Bafang, give us full power, like all the time. It'd be nice to override pedal assist. But then again, sometimes, you want to go slower. You're in crowds and you don't want to max out the top speed. Speed on this bike is dependent on pedal assist and whichever sort of gear ratio you're in with that new Vinci hub. I actually think it works pretty well. I just like to gripe about stuff. Watts, as you're pedaling, as you're using the throttle, that sort of goes up and down. You can get a feel for, how the bike performs over time. And I think that's kind of it. I mean, we've covered this thing. I've given you some of my own personal thoughts and insights. For commuting, for getting around town, for just even neighborhood riding, it's a great bike, and I feel like the Bafang Max Drive is one of my favorite mid-drives now. It's just smart enough, but it's not quite as expensive as these like super, crazy high-end stuff. It's the only mid-drive that I know of too that has throttle mode. So, I think that's about it. Alex, was there anything that you care to add or the thought of while we were doing this?
Sounds like we covered all the bases here.
Yeah, I mean, there's another piece here though in the bag. Do we have the charger?
Yeah, we did. We have the charger as well.
Thank you for bringing this stuff. It's neat to see, like the little accessories.
Yep.
So it's a 2-amp charger, only weighs like 1.1 pounds. You can plug that into the wall, take it into work, take the battery off the bike, and then what's this?
Also have a pretty cool chain lock as well. This is the Evelo Quick Lock. It actually, one of the convenient features is you don't need the key to lock it. So this
just
is
like
really
clicks right
convenient.
in.
Yeah. So when you're looking to lock up, it's not super cumbersome. It's relatively lightweight, and you can just pop it on the bike and go grab a drink, go grab some lunch.
Yeah.
Pretty convenient.
Just hanging out. Well, it's pretty neat to see this stuff up close and compare the 2 different models. Like maybe if you're a really big person and you're comfortable stepping over and stuff, then that's going to be great. But I love that that one only comes in like the dark blue, whereas the step through, it kind of has this, what was it, toasty almond?
Toasted almond.
Toasted almond.
And the blizzard blue.
And the blizzard blue. I like this one. It's been great. I guess that's kind of it. Maybe and the warranty, right?
Of course.
I describe this as 2-year comprehensive, but it's really almost everything except the battery is 4 years.
Yep, it's 4 years, 20,000 miles.
It's a lot of miles.
We'll keep you on the road as long as you want to ride.
And you guys still support your older bikes, and you've got this like open box refurbished thing. So there are a lot of options for a lot of people. It's a bit of money that you're spending. This is like my favorite bike in the line. I think it's great, but if you have a little less, you have some other options.
Yeah, of course. So our open box bikes are available at a pretty decent discount.
Cool. Well, check that out. We can check out the site later. I think we should just hop on and walk our bikes back.
Yeah, I definitely want to walk them on the dock here.
And then we'll explore some of these neighborhoods and do some climb tests.
Sounds great.
Hey guys, so we found another magical place.
Seattle.
It's kind of like woodsy over here. It's Fern Gully situation going on, and then there's this awesome hill, like clearly very steep hill, and I wanted to show you what this motor was capable of. You know, I've been using the throttle to some extent just to show, you know, I'll show when I pedal it's pretty responsive, but with the throttle you have to be above 6 miles per hour. So if you shift down to a lower gear, that helps the motor, but it goes slower, and if it hits 6 miles per hour, it can quit. So there is some pedaling involved, but I'm still, I mean, I never see hills like this. So this is the extreme. Are you ready to go?
Let's roll.
Okay, here we go. Pedal. There we go. And I am not standing up. I'm not having to work very hard. And we're already ascending pretty steep. How you doing over there?
Doing fine. Just a nice relaxing ride up a probably 10 or 11% grade here.
Super steep. And there's the chain ring. You can see, like, when I stop pretty quickly, it stops. And then it starts again really quickly. And that's what you want. That's that torque sensing. So you don't have the delay. You don't have to strain your knees getting it started. And so that's a compromise with the throttle. Now I'm going to try to activate the throttle, but because I'm not going 6 miles per hour, it doesn't work. So go a little bit faster. 6 miles per hour. There we go. The throttle's working, but look, we're losing speed, and then it quits. It quit because we got very close to 6. So that's what I mean. You do have to work a little bit if you're going to climb something crazy like this, but not as hard as you might expect. That's the beauty of e-bikes in general. Okay, I'm in the highest assist level, 5, and I'm going to be following Alex, and we're going to get some nice views. So this is what it's like riding about 20 miles per hour on this bike. Smooth terrain here, so it's super quiet. That belt drive. Hear the battery rattle around a little bit on that bumpy stuff. Found another little beach. It's so cool. The lifeguards out in the rowboat. And that's Mount Rainier in the background?
Yep, Mount Rainier.
Mount Rainier. Well, you know, we're just stopping for a second, and it reminded me to talk about that kickstand. You know, it's double-legged, and that makes it really stable when you're loading up the rack. It just keeps the thing from tipping over. It does weigh a bit more. All electric bikes tend to weigh a bit more right now. And then there's a walk mode. So we're in a park, we're going up a grassy hill, and I was reminded, you know, if you just hold down on that bottom button, look at that. The bike just pushes itself forward. You can imagine if that rack was loaded, you know, not having to push the bike, or if you have like a ramp coming out of a cellar, or you're just going up a hill, walking through a farmer's market maybe. It's the kind of little touches that are nice. So I wanted to give you some insight on how to use that. I appreciate you taking me some awesome spots today, Alex.
Always a pleasure to see you, Court.
Yeah, it's been good. For the full written review on this with all the specs and standover height and everything I talked about, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. Of course, have fun out there. Really think about your lifestyle and, you know, which model works for you, and ride safe.
See you guys.